And welcome back to the Cabbage Patch. I'm Dad.
And I'm Tommy.
And I'm Gus.
And what do we play today?
Arboretum.
Arboretum. And we played Arboretum.
Jeez.
It's a couple years old now. It's a card game. And we played a special shiny Kickstarter edition. Let's see if we can get that in the frame there.
Shiny.
That I found on Facebook Marketplace a while back. It came with a bunch of other games. The regular game is at Target for under 20 bucks. And we've played it once before. I've played it a couple times. It's a lot of fun, but it's got its challenges. It's a card game where you're trying to create series of trees. So it's a card game with suits. There are 10 total suits. You reduce the number of suits depending on how many players you have. So for a 3-player game, we played with 8 species instead of 10 species. 8 suits of cards rather than 10 suits of cards. And the card art is really
Nice.
pretty and one of my favorite parts. The goal of the game is to play over a series of turns. You have 7 cards. On your turn, you draw 2 cards, you play 1 and discard 1. So you always have 7 cards in your hand. You play 1, you discard 1. Then the next person draws 2 cards, plays 1, discard 1. You can draw from the draw deck or from the discard pile. So after the first person goes, then there are cards that face up in the discard pile, so you know what you're getting, right? And the reason that I don't love this game as much as I probably could is because it's really hard to teach what the goal is, because the goal is to score those paths. So if you look at my board here, I've got a 2 cherry blossom and a 6 cherry blossom, so that's a path of cherry blossom, a path of trees that starts and ends with the same species, right?
Right.
So I could score that path, but at the end of the game I have to have cherry blossoms in my hand in order to outbid the other players in order to be able to score it. I recommend watching the playthrough video, which will be linked in the description, because that's the hardest part to get across about this game is how to score it, so what the end goal is. Mostly you're going through the game trying to make ascending or descending paths. You can't put cards next to other cards if they aren't ascending or descending. So we did this for the purpose of space. Goes like that. That goes like that. Right.
Okay.
So when you set it all out like this, you've got these paths, and what you're supposed to be doing is building an arboretum, which is the name of the game, which is a place where people grow trees, and you walk through that lovely path of trees to see the beautiful trees. And there are all sorts of beautiful trees. When you play with a 2-player game, we can have just local trees. We had to add some exotic trees to ours. But most of these trees grow in our neighborhood. Maples and oaks and willows and cherry blossoms
And spruce.
and dogwoods and spruce, right. So that's it. You're trying to create ascending paths, and then at the end of the game, when the draw pile is empty, the last person to draw the cards takes their turn, and then we score. And then the scoring is based on, in that remaining 7 cards of hands, you call out each of the species, and you say, okay, spruce. And whoever has the highest totals for spruce in their hand is entitled to score spruce. So in that case, Tommy had, I think, the 7 of spruce in his hand, and he could score the 4, 5, 6 trail of trees in his arboretum that were spruces. So Tommy would have gotten 3 points of that. And you get 1 point for each card in the path. You get points extra if you begin and or end with the highest numbers. So the cards are numbered 1 through 8. I think I may have actually gotten 1 more point because I had 4 cards. Yeah, I doubled my points here, so this was I actually got even more points. So there were 4 cards in the same here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you make 4 cards in a row that are of the same kind, you get extra points. If you begin or end with a 1 or an 8, you get extra points, etc. There's a wild card in scoring where if one person has an 8 and the other person has a 1, the 1 cancels the 8 out, but the 1 still counts as a 1. So if those are scoring cards, then the person with the 1 wins the ability to score. So it gets a little complicated, right? Otherwise, it goes pretty fast. I think our game lasted 40 minutes, mostly because we were remembering how to play, and Gus was taking a long take a turn. Otherwise, that's it. It's a neat game. It's a card game. It's a card matching and card placement game. And I think it fits in our nature themes. So what did you like, Thomas?
Not much of anything, really.
So you didn't like it, you didn't really dislike it, is what you said yesterday.
Yes.
So you were getting into it. You were dealing with the strategy. So the strategy of what cards to keep, what cards to play. Yeah. That was something. How about you, Gus? Do you like anything about it?
Well, I mean, I like completing a path. It's just satisfying.
Completing a path. That's right. So completing a path is pretty cool, and you end up with a pretty cool pattern, right? So I got some purple trees and some pink trees, and you've got your oaks and your maples lying out there.
My oaks and maples were my main trees.
Yeah.
Along with my dogwoods.
Yeah.
My oak, my tulip, and my blue spruce were my main trees. They were the ones that got me the most. They were the ones that got me.
Is there anything you didn't like? Because you said you were kind of ambivalent to it.
Yeah, I'm ambivalent. Like,
Okay. Is there anything you really didn't like? Doesn't have to be.
no, aside from frustration when you can't get like a lot of schools, when you can't like get points for a line you've worked hard on.
That is very frustrating, right? So it's a
And-
little cutthroat in that way, because somebody else could take those cards away from you, basically. And you
And
might be able to score.
I didn't really get why you couldn't place a 3 next to a 3.
Because it just says so in the rules, I think. So
I didn't really get that. So
that would
that's
make
the
sense,
thing I
because a
didn't
3 and a 3 are sort of, they can be in sequence. But this we played it, and I may have read the rules wrong, but I don't think I did. That you have to be, the card next to, above, or below it needs to be higher or lower, and then they have to be in sequence, or not in sequence, in ascending or descending order. All right. So that is a little frustrating. I think it would be I think it might be a more interesting game if you could put the threes, like if you could put the same numbers next to each other. That might make it too easy. Maybe we'll try it sometime with that as a house rule. So that's it. That's the game. It's really hard to teach somebody to play it. So we had to play it with a friend of ours, and once who'd already played it, to get the hang of it, so that when we could do this, so we could play it again on video and do the review. The scoring, not knowing how to win, is I think the thing I don't like the most about it, right? So now that we know how to play it, I think it's a really cool game to play. Unless, of course, you guys never want to play it again, in which case I won't have to be able to play it again. But I think it's a really good game to play once you know how it works. But you have to play it at least once and see how it's scored to know how it works. Because keeping those cards in your hand to be able to claim the score at the end of the game, I think, is the hardest part to understand. I'm going to give it a solid 2 cabbages. Mostly because I enjoy it, but it's really hard to show other people how to play it. You have to watch a video and watch somebody play it, or you have to play it once and lose terribly to know how to play it. What do you think?
Due to its ambivalence in my mind, not too good, not too bad. And if I'm in a generous mood, which I am today, I think
Are you going to give it a 1 or a 2? Because yesterday you thought it might be a 1 when we played it the first time, and today you feel better about it, or you feel about the same?
about it.
You feel better about it? So is
2.
it a 1 or a 2? You're going to give it a 2?
Yeah, 2.
How about you, a 1 or a 2? Because I don't think you're going to give it a 3. Unless you are.
2.
2?
2.
So now that we know how to play it, and we played it now twice, we give it a solid 6. It's a middle of the game. We might give it a 5, right? If Tommy's not feeling generous. Does that sound good? So 5 or 6 cabbages. Hard to learn. Relatively easy to play once you learn. A lot of good strategy. A lot of pretty art. Any last thoughts?
Well, I would give it a 3, just same as you said. You didn't like it because it was really hard to learn.
It's really hard to learn. It is such a pretty game. Even the regular game that doesn't have the foil cards is very pretty. it's nice to look at trees. It's very calming and soothing, and we've got some competitiveness, but it's not too cutthroat. So we'll give it a solid 5 or 6. If you think you're verging on a 3, then we'll give it a solid 6. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, 6 cabbages. All right, well, in that case, I think all that's left is to do the outro.
Subscribe, like, hit the bell. Tommy,
Leave a comment if you wish,
plenty of cabbages, not us though.
because cabbages don't grow on trees. You're eating an ant nest. Please stop it.
And
Well done, and see you next time.
Goodbye.
and no such thing as cabbage wood.
No.